Ready to proceed, Mr. Hawbaker?
Thank you.
Proceed. You may.
Thank you. Sir, I'm going to show you Exhibit 91 again, and I'll have it on the wall that you need it. I think what you're talking about, you can probably read. Is there at the top of that first page of Exhibit 91, which is the high-view receipt, does it describe a method of payment?
Credit.
Okay. And does it show several X's and then the last four numbers of likely that credit card?
It shows 9646.
And does that summary of the transaction also identify the lane or the aisle that the purchase was made, the cashier's lane?
It says, yes, it says lane 7.
And then does it also identify the checker, the number associated with the person that would have rung up the transaction?
Yes. It says 254.
And this was 4 days before Sterling was reported deceased, correct? This is the 26th of August?
Correct.
Do you know, was any effort made to obtain video from Hy-Vee to see who was there making that purchase?
I do not know if the investigators tried to get any video from Hy-Vee.
Do you know if there was any effort made to confirm what credit card or who that credit card may have belonged to?
No, I have no knowledge of that.
And do you know if there was any effort made to interview the checker at Hy-Vee that was responsible for any of that transaction?
I do not know.
Thank you, sir.
Redirect.
You were asked about a picture in the closet, what things were up on the shelf. Over break, did you have a chance to go through all of your pictures?
Yes, well, I pulled up my photos specifically of the shelf in the closet, yes.
And what were those things on the shelf?
There were a couple of storage containers there and one paper sack.
And fair to say, the photos that we've shown to the jury is just a small portion of the photographs that you took that day, correct?
Correct. When I checked during break, I actually took 378 photos.
And prior to trial, and any trial that we do, we sit down ahead of time and together pick out which photos we're going to present to the jury, correct?
That's correct.
That's all I have.
Your cross. Can this witness be excused?
Yes.
Agent, you're free to leave. State's next witness.
Jennifer Schriever, Your Honor.
Ms. Schriever, come forward. Raise your right hand. Do you promise the testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Have a seat. Mr. McAllister.
Thank you. If you could please state your first and last name and spell them both for the record.
Jennifer Schriever, Jennifer, Schreiver.
And ma'am, where do you live?
Alta Vista, Iowa.
How long have you lived in the Alta Vista, Iowa area?
About 6 years.
And where did you live specifically in Alta Vista on August 30th, 2017?
I lived on 107 South Hilltop Avenue, apartment 11.
And who did you live with at the time?
I lived with my son.
And that apartment complex, we've heard testimony in this case, it has 3 separate buildings, correct?
Yes.
And each one of those buildings contains how many apartments?
4.
And did you live in the same building or a different building as the defendant, Cheyanne Harris?
A different building.
Now, when did you first meet Cheyanne Harris?
I first met her on the day that I was working at the A&B Express, the local gas station downtown. She had come in.
In downtown where?
Alta Vista.
And prior to meeting her, had you seen her around the apartment complex?
Yeah, I'd seen her outside.
And so you said that you were working at the convenience store in Alta Vista, correct?
Correct.
And did Miss Harris come into the convenience store?
Yes.
When would this have happened? What month are we talking?
I'm guessing June-ish, end of June, somewhere in there.
Of what year?
2017.
And what happened when Miss Harris came into the convenience store where you were working?
I had asked her, or I introduced myself, said that I had seen her, that she must live in the apartment complex, and welcomed her to Alta Vista.
Were you trying to be a good neighbor?
Absolutely.
Okay. Did Miss Harris, when she came to the convenience store, did she come alone or did she come with somebody else?
I believe she was alone.
Did you know at that time if she had any children?
I had seen her outside with a little girl. I assumed that she had a child.
Did you ever see her outside prior to her coming in the convenience store in June of 2017 with a baby?
No.
Now, was there a time after you met Miss Harris at the convenience store that there was a storm at the apartment complex?
Yes, sir.
When would that have happened in relation to the time you met Miss Harris at the convenience store?
From the time that I met her, I believe it was a couple weeks. It was July when that storm happened. So.
And maybe early July?
Yeah, I'm guessing around, early July.
What happened at the apartment complex with the storm?
A bunch of trees came down. In fact, one of them came down on the front part of the building where she stayed.
And did it fall on the building?
Yes, it fell on the front apartment from their apartment. Their apartment was here. It fell on the front part of the building.
Like a tree branch or an entire tree, or what was it?
Like most of the tree, yeah.
And I assume that got your attention.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Did you go outside?
Oh, yeah, I was outside. There was a lot of damage.
And what time of day would this have been?
I don't recall what time of day.
You remember if it was light or dark?
It was light.
And when you went outside, did you see the defendant, Cheyanne Harris?
I did. She was outside with her daughter.
And her daughter, is that correct?
Yeah.
And what was her daughter's name?
Nala.
And did you talk to Miss Harris?
I did.
And what did you talk about with Miss Harris?
We were talking about the storm. She was upset that her boyfriend Zach had gone and left, and she was stuck in the middle of the storm. She had said that she felt the tree hit. It shook her bed, and woke her and Nala, but it didn't wake the baby up. And at that time, I was like, "You have a baby." I didn't know she had a baby.
Was the baby outside with Miss Harris?
No, sir.
And you said that's how you learned that she had a baby?
Yes.
Now, when you were outside with Miss Harris, where was she in relation to her apartment?
At that time, during that conversation, we were on the corner of her building.
Was she within earshot of the building where her apartment was at?
At that time, yes.
Now, where was the baby during this conversation?
I'm assuming she left him inside and the baby.
How long was Miss Harris outside with you while the baby was inside?
About 20 minutes to a half hour.
Did Miss Harris have any baby monitor or any other device that she could use to monitor the baby in the apartment?
No.
Where she was at when you were talking to her, could she have heard the baby from the apartment?
Maybe, maybe not. We weren't on the corner the whole time.
You were outside, right?
We were outside, yes.
How long was Miss Harris outside, did you say?
About 20 minutes to a half hour.
When she told you that she had a baby, did you ask her about the baby?
I did.
What did you ask her?
I asked her how old her baby was, and she really couldn't tell me the date. She specified that the baby was born on the 1st of some month. I can't remember. I want to say May.
Okay.
May or something like that. But she said I can't keep them straight, but she had the baby in the upstairs of a friend's house.
Okay. Now, after meeting Miss Harris at the convenience store and talking to her outside a few weeks later when the storm hit, did you ever meet her live-in boyfriend, that's the defendant's live-in boyfriend, Zachary Kane?
I did.
Or Cohn, excuse me?
Yes.
And when did you meet him?
I met him, I want to say about a week or two after the storm. He was outside listening to music in my boyfriend's van.
So you said that the storm was in the early part of July. Would this have been a few weeks later, so maybe the middle part of July?
Something like that. Yeah, something like that. I'm not 100% sure.
And so how was it that you met Mr. Cohn?
I went outside to talk to my boyfriend, and he was in there, and I introduced myself to him and told him he had a really cute daughter, that she looked just like him.
And was that Nala that you were talking about?
Yes, sir.
Did you also offer to look after Nala if needed?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
It seemed like Cheyanne needed to maybe get out of the house. She seemed kind of sad every time I seen her.
So you were offering assistance to help her?
Yeah.
Now, how often would you see Cheyanne?
Not too often, outside every now and then with Noah. Otherwise, she was inside most of the time.
So your observations were fairly limited, is that right?
Yeah.
Were you asked to babysit the children that same day?
Yes.
Who asked you to babysit the kids?
I believe it was Zach. I'm not sure 100%. Yeah, pretty much. I think it was Zach.
And so, which kids did you babysit?
I babysat for Noah and for the baby Sterling.
And who were Nala and baby Sterling's parents?
Cheyanne and Zach.
And Cheyanne was the mother, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, how long did you babysit the children?
The first time it was about 17 hours.
About 17 hours?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time you met Mr. Cohn, correct?
Yes.
Same day?
In person.
And you had met Miss Harris twice before?
Yes, I had spoken with her twice before.
Now, I want to ask this so the jury understands your own experience caring for children. Do you have your own children?
I do.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
And have you raised them to adulthood?
Yes, sir.
Have you cared for other children during the course of your life?
Yes.
And can you describe that for the jury?
I have several nieces and nephews that I've cared for over the course of the year, plus I babysat for children in the community that I grew up in.
Is it fair to say that you feel comfortable providing care for an infant?
Yes, sir.
And how about a 2-year-old?
Absolutely.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about your observations of Sterling and Nala when you cared for them, when you babysat them the first time in the middle of July of 2017, okay?
Okay.
First of all, was Sterling a happy baby?
Yeah, he seemed very happy.
And why did you say that?
Oh, yeah, he would smile. He didn't fuss a lot. He just seemed content.
And what observations did you make of the size of Sterling when you babysat him in the middle of July 2017?
When she handed him to me before they left, he seemed really tiny.
What do you mean?
He seemed lightweight. When she handed him to me, I kind of did one of these gestures with my arms, and he just seemed lightweight.
Now, do I understand from your testimony that you had not seen or met Sterling from the time he was born until you've met him for the first time in the middle of July? Is that correct?
Correct.
So when you babysat the first time, that was the first time you saw Sterling?
Yes, sir.
Did you ask Miss Harris, the mother, about him seeming to be lightweight?
I didn't ask, but she had said something about having trouble with him gaining weight, maybe some formula issues, and that she thought they might have it under control, that hopefully he'd gain weight now.
When Miss Harris was giving you the baby, did she give you the baby directly for you to babysit?
Yeah.
Did she hand Sterling to you?
Yep, she handed him right over.
Did she give you instructions as to how to properly care for Sterling and Nala?
She did. She had a notebook. She was very organized.
What do you mean?
She had a notebook where she left little notes on when Nala had Tylenol because she wasn't feeling well. There was instructions. They had different diaper wipes for sensitive skin, different diapers. She was, step by step, pretty organized.
And so was she able to explain to you which wipes you need to use for Nala and which separate wipes you need to use with Sterling?
Yes, she did.
Did she provide clothing for Nala?
Yes.
Was it appropriate clothing?
Yes.
And did she describe to you how you were to use the clothing?
Yes.
And the same for Sterling. Did she provide clothing for you to use for Sterling?
Yeah.
And did she have to give you any instructions on how to use the clothing?
No.
Did she list any health concerns that Sterling might have?
She did mention the diaper rash. that he had the A&D ointment in the diaper bag, and she'd been applying that. Yeah.
And was she able to describe to you how to apply the diaper rash and what the issue was with the diaper rash? How to apply the formula, to treat the diaper rash and what the issue was with it?
She just said he had a diaper rash and that she'd been using the A&D ointment for it.
Did it appear to you in your interactions with Miss Harris when she was giving you the children to babysit in the middle of July that she appeared to know what needed to be done to provide proper care for Sterling and Nolly?
Yes, she did. She seemed very organized, well, together.
Now, during the 16 or 17 hours that you provided care for Sterling that first time in mid-July when you babysat him, did you have an opportunity to change his diaper?
Yes, sir.
Where did you provide the care, the babysitting? Where was it physically located?
It was in my apartment.
And when you changed his diaper, did you make any observation as to Sterling's bottom, how it appeared?
Yeah, it was really red and raw and chapped, almost to the point of cracking.
Was it from a diaper rash?
Yes, sir.
And based on your experience in dealing with diaper rashes with other children, is that what it appeared to be?
Yes, sir.
And did you do anything to treat the diaper rash that you saw in Sterling?
I tried to keep him as dry as possible, and every time I changed him, I would, clean the area well and then apply the A&D ointment.
And when you applied the A&D ointment with every diaper change, did you notice any changes in the appearance of Sterling's bottom after you provided the treatment?
Yeah, it seemed to be a little less chapped, like, the ointment was soaking in, a little less red. It was getting a little better with each change.
Do you have a sense of how many times you changed Sterling's diaper in that 16 or 17 hours?
I wasn't keeping track, but I'm guessing it was 5+ times,
Pretty regularly?
Yeah, you gotta keep that dry.
Was he having regular bowel movements and regular times where he'd urinate in his diaper?
Yeah, he seemed pretty regular.
Did you feed Sterling while he was in your care?
Yes, sir.
What was your impression as to how he took a bottle from you when you fed him?
He took a bottle very well, very well.
And how much, did you feed him formula?
Yes.
Where did you get the formula?
Miss Harris and Cheyanne provided the formula.
And where did you get the bottle?
They provided the bottle.
And when Miss Harris provided you the formula and the bottle, did she give you instructions on how to mix it?
Yeah, but I know how.
She was talking to a pro.
I'm not a pro, but I know how to do it.
Okay. But she explained to you this was the formula to use for Sterling, correct?
Yes.
Did Nala take formula or something else?
Noah was drinking milk.
When you gave Sterling a bottle, did he have any trouble latching onto the nipple?
No, none at all.
Did he have any trouble at all getting the formula out of the bottle?
No, in fact, he ate like a trooper.
What do you mean?
He took it. He seemed every time he needed a bottle, he was hungry and needed it.
Did he take the full bottle?
He wouldn't take a full bottle all the time because he would kind of zonk out in the middle. But then, he'd sleep for maybe an hour and then wake up and want the rest of it.
And so how much formula would you feed Sterling in the times you fed him that day?
I'm gonna 6 to 8 ounces.
And do you have a sense of how often you fed Sterling in that 16 or 17 hours?
It was about every 2-3 hours.
How would you know that he needed a diaper change or he needed a bottle?
He would fuss.
When you say fuss, what do you mean?
He'd cry. He would, let me know that he needed something, and it was kind of, you go through the steps. Was he wet? Do I need to change him? Or if he was still fussing, well, let's try the bottle.
So he was able to vocalize by crying or fussing that he needed attention. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
When you watched Sterling, you also watched Nala, right?
Yes.
Was she properly clothed when she arrived?
Yes, she was.
Did she appear to be well nourished?
Yes, she did.
What do you mean?
She was very thick, chunky young girl. She had chubby cheeks, thick thighs, chubby arms. She seemed well fed.
Did she appear to be properly cared for when she arrived at your residence for you to provide care?
Yes, she did.
Now, at the conclusion of the 16 or 17 hours, did you return the children to the parents' care?
The second time I had to return them. The first time Cheyanne came and got them.
So she stopped and picked them up,
Yes.
and you provided them in the same condition they arrived back to the parents, right?
Yes.
Now you said there was a second time. Did you watch the children a second time?
Yes.
When would that have occurred in relation to the first time you watched them in the middle of July?
This is going to be around the end of July-ish, somewhere in there.
Now, as you sit here now, do you have a specific date you can identify?
What is it, 31 days in July, 30 days? I think 30th, 31st, August 1st, somewhere in there.
So somewhere in that range of between July 30th and August the 1st of 2017?
Yes, sir.
Now, between the time that you had cared for Sterling in the middle of the month and when you cared for him the second time, had you seen him in the interval period of time?
I think I seen her outside with Nola, but no, not otherwise.
And so, can you describe how it was that you came to babysit Sterling and Nala the second time?
They just asked, and I said absolutely.
Who asked you?
I believe it was Cheyanne this time.
And what was it she said to you, if you recall, to ask you to watch the children?
I'm not 100% sure. I was there. I was happy to watch the kids anytime.
And why was it that you were happy to watch the kids?
I love kids. I was working every other weekend at the store, so I had plenty of time on my hands. So it gave me something to do too.
Did you ask Miss Harris or Mr. Cohen for payment for watching the kids?
I did.
And did they pay you?
They did.
How much did they pay you the first time?
I want to say it was 30, I think.
And that was for 16 or 17 hours?
Yeah. A young couple didn't ask for much.
And how about the second time? How much did they pay you?
I think it was around the same, 30 or 40 hours.
Now, the second time you watched the kids, where did you watch them at?
My house.
And that's the same place you watched them before?
Yes.
And how long did you watch the kids the second time?
It was around the same amount of time, about 16 hours.
Now, I want to go through your observations of the children the second time you watched them, okay? Let's start with Nala. First of all, let me back up just a minute. When you watched the kids the second time, did Miss Harris also seem as well organized as she was the first time?
Absolutely.
Can you describe that for the jury?
She came with her little notebook. Her diaper bags were all organized. It was pretty much the same as the first.
So like the first time, she provided you with directions on how to care for the children. She provided you proper size clothing, proper diapers for each child, etc.
Yes.
Did you notice any change in Ms. Harris and her organizational skills in those interval of a couple weeks?
No.
Now the second time when you were asked to watch Nala near the end of July or the 1st of August, was Nala properly clothed?
Yes.
Was she still chubby or chunky?
Yes.
Still appeared to be properly nourished?
Yes.
How about Sterling? How did he appear?
He was still clean, still seemed lightweight, but seemed a little bit healthier, a little bit heavier, but not a whole lot.
A little bit heavier, you said?
Yeah.
The second time you interacted with Sterling, was he still a happy baby?
Yes.
Would he smile?
Oh, yeah.
What do you mean?
He would always shoot you a smile. Give him a little coochie coo and he'd shoot you a little smile.
How much would he sleep in a day?
Yeah, he sleep about, I don't know how much he would sleep. 2 hours at a time.
And how long would he be up for?
Well, babies sleep all the time, so he would be up for maybe an hour, hour and a half, and want a little nap or whatever.
When the time he was up, what would you do with him?
I would hold him, play with him, give him as much of attention. I didn't put him down a whole lot. I like to hold my babies when I have my babies, so.
When you say you play with him, what do you mean?
Just kind of interact with him and talk to him and, let him know that I was there.
Would he interact back with you?
A little bit. He'd shoot me a smile or he'd coo.
During the second time that you had Sterling, was he still a happy baby?
Yeah.
Did you feed him bottles the second time you babysat him near the end of July or early part of August?
Yes, sir.
And was it the same that you were provided formula and baby bottles?
Yes.
Was Sterling still able to latch onto the nipple and get the milk or formula out of the bottle the second time you watched him?
Yes.
Did he have any trouble taking the bottle the second time?
No.
Was he still eating well?
Yeah, he was still eating very well.
How would you describe how much formula he took when you watched him the second time?
It was about the same, 6 to 8 ounces every couple hours.
Now, you described the first time that he seemed kind of hungry or was eating a lot, correct?
Yeah, he seemed hungry.
The second time, was that the same?
Yes.
What do you mean?
He would eat pretty fast. Like, he would suckle on the bottle very fast. But I chalked that up as maybe it was a growth spurt. My kids would eat fast like that.
Now, the second time that he stayed with you, Sterling, did you change Sterling's diaper again?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And was there any change the second time in how he would alert you that he needed a diaper change or a bottle or needed some type of attention?
No, he would fuss and he would let me know.
Just like before?
Absolutely.
Did you make any observations of Sterling's bottom the times you changed his diaper the second time you watched him?
Yeah, he still had the diaper rash, but it wasn't nearly as bad as the first time when I watched him.
Did you treat the diaper rash?
Yep, I was still treating it with the A&D ointment.
And how did Sterling respond to your treatment?
He was still responding well. Seemed to be getting a little less red.
Now, during the second time, did Sterling respond to the treatment?
Yes.
How was it that the arrangement was made when you agreed to babysit Sterling and now the second time for it to end? How was the pickup then to be arranged?
At that time, I received a text message from Cheyanne that they were going to be home, that she would come over and pick him up, but she needed a little time to breathe from coming off the road.
Okay, so when you were babysitting the second time, did Cheyanne and Mr. Cohn, did they leave the apartment complex?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, that wasn't a very good question, I'm sorry. When you were babysitting, where were Cheyanne and Mr. Cohn? Where did they go?
They went over the road for his truck driving job. I don't know exactly where they had to go, but
Okay. And did you have a set time that you were going to watch the kids?
there really wasn't a set time.
And was there an expectation that when they arrived home that they would pick up the kids?
Yes,
And so did you see Cheyanne Harris arrive home?
I did.
And tell me what you mean, how you saw it.
I seen her walking up the sidewalk. I could hear their car pull up. They didn't have the quietest car, so I heard them pull up and seen her walking up into their apartment.
And what time of day was that?
I'm not 100% sure.
Did you watch Sterling overnight?
Yes,
Would it have been the next day?
yes.
After Miss Cheyanne arrived home and you saw her walking into the apartment complex, did she come directly to pick up the children?
No.
What happened?
She had texted and said that she needed a minute, if she could have a few minutes to just get herself together before coming to get the kids.
Did you agree?
I did.
What happened next?
Nella ran out of milk and she was on her last diaper, and I drew her a text telling her that it was time that she needed to come get the kids.
And did she come get the kids?
No.
Well, how long was it after she arrived at the apartment complex and she said she needed a little time? Did you reach out to her and say that she needed to come get the kids?
I don't know how much time had passed. I just knew that her baby needed milk and needed diapers, and they were starting to get fuzzy.
And you told her that and she didn't come right away?
No.
What happened?
Me and my boyfriend, I ended up grabbing the kids' stuff and we brought them over to her.
Why did you do that?
Because Nella was fussy. She needed a diaper change. She needed milk, things like that.
What happened when you went to the defendant's apartment?
Ms. Harris came to the door and seen that I had brought the kids over to her, and she kind of and rolled her eyes like she wasn't ready to have the kids back again.
And did you give her the kids?
Yes.
Was that the last time that you saw Sterling alive?
Yes.
Now, through your interactions with Sterling and Nala, did you form a relationship with them?
With the kids?
Yes.
Absolutely. They're good kids.
Now, after you watched the kids in end of July or early August, if after that time Miss Harris had come to you or Mr. Cohn and asked you to provide assistance to providing care to the children, would you have done that?
I would have in a heartbeat.
Were you asked to do so?
I wasn't asked again after that, after the second time.
Did you try to help Miss Harris with some food assistance?
I had brought it to her attention at some time that maybe we could apply, or had she applied for food assistance or anything like that, but
When did you do that?
I'm not exactly sure when we had that conversation, but I know we had that conversation.
And what was her response?
Something about Zach's income or something that she wouldn't do it, or they couldn't do it,
Because they made too much money?
or something like that.
Now, I want to turn your attention to August 30th, 2017, the day that Sterling was found dead in the swing, okay?
Okay.
How did you learn that Sterling had died?
I was freshly out of the hospital, just gotten home. I went outside for a cigarette, and I noticed that Mr. Cohen was outside. And I said hi, but he didn't say anything back to me. So I walked over to him and I said, "Is everything okay?" And that's when he stated to me that he was gone. And I said, "Who's gone?" He said, "My boy." I said, "What do you mean gone?" "He's just gone," he said.
And what did you say next?
I don't remember exactly what I said next, but I said, "You mean he's dead? He's gone?" I don't know.
What was Mr. Cohen doing?
He was outside smoking a cigarette.
Did that upset you?
A little bit. I told him, I said, if your baby's gone, I said, "Have you called anybody? Have you called 911 or anything?" He's like, "We don't know what to do." I was like, "Well, you need to put your cigarette down and you should probably go inside and call 911.
Did you see Miss Harris?
I didn't see Miss Harris for some time had passed there.
Now, during the time that you were interacting that summer with Cheyanne Harris and Mr. Cohen and the children, did you know whether or not they had a pet?
I did. I knew they had a dog.
And where did they keep the dog?
As far as I knew, they kept the dog in the bathroom at the apartments because we're not allowed to have pets there.
What was the dog's name?
Leo.
Now, on August 30th, did you get custody of Leo?
I did. They had asked me if I would watch him.
Did they bring Leo over to your apartment?
Leo kind of ran off out of their apartment with me over to my apartment.
Was that before or after the police arrived?
Before.
How long did you keep Leo the dog?
I had him for a couple of days.
Was there a time when you returned Leo the dog to Cheyanne and Mr. Cohn?
Yes.
Where did that turnover of the dog occur?
They came over to the apartment and we took the dog down to the Alta Vista Park.
And when you went to the park, I'm sorry, excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. When you went to the park, did you give them back the dog?
Oh, yeah.
Did you have a chance to interact with Cheyanne?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that interaction?
They were talking about funeral arrangements and some stuff like that. And at some point, she had looked at me and Zach and said, "It seems like everybody's pointing their finger at me." And I agreed with her. That's exactly what it seemed like to me. Like everybody was pointing their finger at her.
And what did she say in response to your statement?
At that time, she kind of winged her arm out over to Zach and said, "I told you we should have taken Nala, Leo, and ran."
Should have taken Nala, Leo, and ran?
Yeah.
And Leo would be the dog, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you respond to that at all?
I didn't know how to respond to that.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Cross?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Ma'am, do they allow pets at that apartment complex?
No, they do not.
So if you had one there and you weren't supposed to, it might be a good reason to have it at your place temporarily. Fair enough.
No, right.
Okay. Just real quickly, you did have an opportunity when you first met Ms. Harris to kind of assess her demeanor, and it sounds like you thought maybe she could use some help. Is that fair?
Yeah, she seemed a little disconnected. She didn't smile a lot. She just didn't seem happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've said before that she seemed kind of depressed, that she didn't smile a lot, and that was kind of your observation probably of why she seemed depressed. Fair enough?
Yes.
And that also, had you said before that she just didn't seem all there?
Yeah, she seemed kind of disconnected.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. I don't have anything else.
Can you redirect?
She did, however, show the emotion when you brought the kids back. She seemed to be kind of upset with you, right?
That one day, the second day, yeah, like she wasn't ready to have the kids come home yet.
Thanks. Nothing further.
Was Zach in the house also with her at that apartment when they had returned?
When I returned the kids to them,
Yes.
I don't know where Zach was. She just came to the door herself and kind of just stuck her head out. So I don't know where he was.
So you wouldn't know if that demeanor of Miss Harris at that time was related to the kids or whatever was going on between her and Zach?
Right. I do not know.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
But she rolled her eyes at you, right?
Yeah.
Nothing further.
Anything else?
Nothing, Your Honor.
All right. Can this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
You are free to leave.
Thank you, sir.
Next witness for the state.
David Nugent, please.
Right up here. Raise your right hand. Promise testimony you're about to give will be the truth and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Mr. McAllister.
Thank you. Sir, if you could please state your first and last name and spell them both for the record.
Dave, D-A-V-E, Nugent, N-U-G-E-N-T,
And how old are you, sir?
54,
How far in school did you go?
12th,
And where do you live, sir?
Iowa Falls, Iowa.
And who do you live with?
My wife,
Do you have children?
2,
And are they at home still or are they grown?
they're grown up.
Do you have grandkids?
Yes,
How many do you have?
5.
Now, back in the calendar year 2017, sir, what was your occupation?
We own 2 poultry farms and a trucking business.
Now, let's first start about the poultry farms. Where were they located?
One was located in Radcliffe, Iowa, and the other one was Ogden, Iowa.
And what did you raise when you say poultry farms? Kind of give us a description of what you mean by that.
We were raising broilers, a meat chicken,
And so how many broilers did you have at your 2 poultry farms?
approximately 300,000.
Is that a lot? That seems like a lot. Is that a lot?
It's quite a few.
Okay. Now, you also mentioned you had a trucking business.
Yes.
What did your trucking business consist of?
We had 5 to 6 trucks in 2017.
And what did you haul with your trucking business?
We were hauling broilers for Simply Essential out of Charles City.
And what is Simply Essentials in Charles City?
A broiler plant, a meat chicken plant.
Were they slaughtered and processed the chickens?
Right.
And so what did your trucking company do? How did you get the broilers and how did you get to the trucking, to the production facility? How did that work?
The trucks would go to Charles City at the plant, pick up a trailer, and then they would weigh the trailer empty, go out to the poultry farm, and the crew would load the broilers into the mods and put them back on the trailer. Then the driver would drive back to the plant there in Charles City, weigh the trailer back in, unhook it in the live shed, and then they would go home.
So were your drivers responsible for loading the chickens?
Nope, all they had to do is just back into the door, by the door at the chicken farm, and unstrap the curtains and raise the lid of the trailer. And then the crew did the rest.
And did you own the trucks?
Yes,
And you said it was 5 or 6?
5 to 6 in 2017.
So did you employ drivers
Yes.
to drive the trucks?
Yeah. There was, 5 to 6 drivers at it. It's hard to say, they come and go.
Okay. And did you employ the defendant, Cheyanne Harris's live-in boyfriend, Zachary Cohen, as one of your drivers in the calendar year 2017?
Yes, I did.
And when was it that he filled out paperwork to begin work with your company?
Around May 15th,
And when did he start work?
right away.
And that would have been around May 15th or 16th or so of 2017?
Somewhere right around there, yes.
And when Mr. Cohn was hired, how was he to be paid or compensated? Was it an hourly salary or something else?
We paid him salary,
And was that a yearly or annual salary?
a yearly salary, yes.
And how much of salary were you paying Mr. Cohn?
$45,000,
For $45,000 a year.
right.
How often would he get paid that salary?
Every 2 weeks.
Now, did you check your records to see when the first paycheck would have been issued by your trucking business to Mr. Cohn?
It should have been right around June 2nd.
Do you remember how much the first check, and all of the checks would have been the same, I presume, correct?
They would have been approximately the same. Would have been about $1,730.
So every 2 weeks, about $1,730 gross.
Right.
Do you know how much it would have been approximately after taxes?
Approximately $1,274.
After he started, did you pay him every 2 weeks until his employment terminated?
Yes.
And when approximately did his employment terminate?
Sometime during September of 17.
Now, during your time employing Mr. Cohn, generally speaking, what hours would he work for you?
They would be he'd leave in the evening and drive during the night, and the load usually got back early morning the next day.
So typically evening and overnight hours or late night hours?
Right.
How many days a week would Mr. Cohn work on average?
5 to 6.
Did you yourself ever have an occasion to meet the defendant Cheyanne Harris and Mr. Cohn's son Sterling?
I met Cheyanne a couple of times, and the child I only saw once.
Do you remember when approximately would have been when you saw Sterling?
It had been in July.
Did you get a good look at Sterling or not?
Yeah.
What did you see?
He was in the car seat, in the back seat of the car, while we were filling out some paperwork, and he seemed like he was happy and okay. He fussed a little.
Did he appear to be healthy?
Yes.
And you said this was sometime in July 2017?
Right.
Any sense of what part of the month it would have been?
Not right offhand, no.
Now, as part of being an employer, did you offer your employees, including Mr. Cohn, health insurance?
Yes, we do.
And when you offer an employee health insurance, do you pay a portion of the premium?
Yes, we did.
And would the employee pay a portion of the premium as well?
Yes.
Do you mandate employees have insurance, or is it a choice?
It's a choice.
Did Mr. Cohn elect to have health insurance coverage?
No, they denied it.
Now, I want to ask you just one last line of question. You said you met Miss Harris, correct? Cheyanne Harris?
Cheyanne, yeah.
And how would you describe your interactions with her?
We talked briefly is all.
Did you notice anything unusual or out of the ordinary about her behaviors?
No.
Did she appear to be normal?
As far as I could tell, yeah.
And so when did you interact with her?
Once when we were first hiring Zach at the motel, when he was filling out paperwork, she sat on the bench outside while we were filling out paperwork. And then the other time was in July when we met him again to fill out some more paperwork.
So you said he was hired about May 15th or 16th, correct?
Right.
So the first time been around that period of time?
Yes.
And the second time would have been in July?
Right.
Did you notice any changes in her behaviors or her demeanors or how you observed her between those times?
No.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Cross-examination.
If you had to estimate how much time you actually interacted with Ms. Harris, 5-10 minutes total?
I'd say probably, yeah.
I mean, she wasn't the focus of your meetings with Mr. Cohn, correct?
Right.
I mean, you were there to do whatever paperwork you had to do.
Yep, we just met up to fill out paperwork.
Did you actually have to help out Mr. Cohn, give him a loan?
A couple of times, yes.
Did you then take that out of his paycheck to get it paid back?
Yeah.
I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Anything else?
Did you also have to take out from his paycheck some credit card purchases he made?
A few, yes.
Were those purchases that were authorized by you prior to him doing them?
Most of the time, no.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Nothing further.
Can this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're free to leave.
Next witness.
The state calls Randy Harris.
Do we want to make a record on this witness before she testifies? Probably should. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we're going to take a brief recess. I just need to make a record outside of your presence. So please continue to heed the admonition during this recess.